Shadows Literary License Podcast episodes. Ben Stokes here, exploring all things Collinsport, Maine, and following the likes of the Collins family and the friends and foes with your co-hosts Tom Diamond, Jesse Fultz, Vicky Ray, and Keith Chalgo. Collins family, story about blood relations, literally.
Hello, welcome to Literary License Podcast, and today we're discussing Dark Shadows, episodes 504 to 524. And today we have with us Marie Wallace. Hello, Marie.
Hello, nice to see you, or hear you.
And we have Tom Diamond. Hello, Tom.
Hello, everybody. And it's 5:06 to 5:24. Keith, the check is in the mail. Thank you very much. It's great to be here once again.
And we have Vicky Ray. Hello, Vicky.
Hi, everybody.
And I'm your host, Keith Shago. Before we get started, let's find out what everyone's been up to. So, Marie, what have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
Well, I have been so busy. And what am I busy with? Classes. And they're all on Zoom. It's the most wonderful thing. I mean, I have never taken so many classes in my life, but they're great. You know, from painting to exercise classes, yoga, qigong, everything. It's wonderful.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I have to sit there and say that living in the world we are today, your world is can be so much open through the courtesy of your own living room nowadays.
I know.
I know. It's wonderful. Sometimes I think, I've got to be in class in 5 minutes. And I say, okay, that's all right. It's right there. You know, I don't have to go out. I don't have to go through the rain or the snow or the cold. And not that I dislike that. I do like it. But it's awfully nice and convenient on those days to have your class right there in your nice little warm bedroom.
I know.
I've actually been watching some repertoire theater companies, and what they've been doing is taking out like Barefoot in the Park, the Neil Simons, and they get all these actors on the screen, and they're actually going through the scripts and reading them and acting them out. So it's quite nice. Everyone in their little Zoom window giving their little performances.
They're finding wonderful things to do on Zoom with this time. I mean, we love live theater, but it's so wonderful that we don't have to miss it totally.
Exactly.
We can create all of this through Zoom. So we're very lucky when you think of if we had this whole thing happening to us 100 years ago. You know?
Yeah, but the Spanish flu, yes.
Well, we had just been nailed inside our houses with a great big red X on the outside of it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even if it's less than a safe place in the 80s, I mean, basically, it's like you would have to sit there and just watch your 3 channels, wouldn't you?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, no kidding. That would have been awful. But we used to read a whole lot more. I still read avidly, but you know, a lot of kids grew up with electronics and this and that. And I mean, but we used to read a lot. I mean, we didn't always, you know. When the TV went off at 12 o'clock, the Canadian station went off, as did the New York station. So,
wow.
Oh, sure. And with me, I think it went off at 11, and it was start to do this circle thing with the colors, you know, the color.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But then it's 1, 2, 10.
The TV was about
6
by 8.
Black and white.
Star Spangled Banner would play, and you know it was time to go to bed.
That's right. That's right.
Well, in New York,
because sometimes you can stay up awfully late getting involved with some of these things.
Well, they had the late show, and you know, in New York, you know, they did have $1 Million Movie and Channel 9.
I remember the $1 Million Movie.
Yeah, and they had, of course, the Gone with the Wind theme for that.
WPIX.
And the late show and the late, now they had that syncopated clock by Leroy Anderson as the theme. And then they had the Christophers. Oh my God! Oh well, Marie is. I was a young kid, probably a baby during that point, you know. But but that was those you'll never see those days again. Not with
what they had TV in the 1890s. Tom.
So better you than me, man.
You'll have to go to Quentin to find that one. But here's a blooper. I told you this before. In 1790, when they did the 1795 block in Dark Shadows, they kept the 1940s radio from Collinwood that they have in the present. As you go in through the door and you go to the left, and there's an old radio.
Oopsie.
And they forgot to take that out. So you still have that radio in the 1795 block.
That's funny.
I thought was in the
There's always a blooper in television, definitely, but even on the stage. I did Born Yesterday once, many years ago, and that takes place in the 40s. And my boyfriend came out to see me doing it, and he said, "Why are you guys using a ballpoint pen? There was no such thing as a ballpoint pen in the 40s. None of us had even thought of it.
That's
but
true.
It was signatures that I had to sign my character. And you can tell the difference between a ballpoint and a pen that needs ink. Yeah. And so, it's something that we never dreamed of.
It's great, though. It's great, and of course that's what made Dark Shadows special. Another one was we covered that when the gazebo, the garden of Collinwood, and when they were in the 1795 block, they moved the patio furniture to the left, way to the left. But if you look close enough, and especially with the big screens now, you can see the patio furniture, 20th century, that's supposed to be in 1795.
That's what everybody loves about it, the bloopers. In fact, have you all seen the tape that's just called Bloopers of Dark Shadows? That's wonderful. But when it first came out, I said, that's redundant. The whole show is a blooper.
Yes. My personal favorite is when the curtains fall and they slam the back door, or the door looking out to the terrace, and the curtain rod falls and the curtains come down.
That's in Maggie's house. That's in
Maggie's house.
Later. Yeah, that's later.
I thought it was in Collinwood for some reason.
When I first started on the show, I didn't know all the rules. And I was in a room, and the set started to fall on me, literally falling on me. And so I stopped and, got out of character and the whole thing. And Dan Curtis said, "Why did you stop?" I said, "Because the set was falling in on me." He said, "Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Stop
Keep rolling.
Unless I say to stop." And it was true.
Yep, that's what he did. And didn't you almost catch on fire or something like that?
My hair. Thank God it was a big wig. But yes, I had to run. In fact, that's the time when I went into that parallel time and into the jail. And what's his name?
Okay.
Humphrey.
Humphrey Allen Estrada. Nicholas Blair. Or was it Jeff Clark?
Nicholas Blair hypnotized me.
Oh, right.
I had to dip down, run across the entire studio with someone following me, throwing a cape on me and a wig. So we had one pin to put into the wig and the cap, and got into place. And I started acting and talking, and I hear this. I said, "Oh my goodness, why is she bothering?" And I just thought it was the hairdresser, lovely Edith, yes.
Edith Tilley's?
Yes, Edith Tilley's. I thought she was thinking, she's worrying about my hair, or, it's not on correctly. All of a sudden, I hear this stamping, and it's one of the stagehands running to me, pulls the wig off. It's on fire. So, yes, in a moment like that, you had to stop.
Well, they did the same thing. I was telling you when you and I interviewed about, this was last year, but when Jonathan and Alexandra Mulkey were having a scene in Collinwood, and there was a backstage fire, and they were doing their dialogue, and you heard the fire extinguishers in the back as they were trying to put out the fire, and the two pros. I mean, I think Jonathan just maybe looked for a second at it, a little bit distracted, but the two pros finished the scene and didn't even realize, that they only knew afterwards that there was a nice fire going on backstage.
Yes. You get so involved, you have no idea about those kind of things.
Must have been great. That must have been great.
Well, I remember watching one of the interviews on the DVD disc, and basically they were talking about Louis Edmonds and that he thought he was done for the day, so he was getting undressed. And then he goes, no, you have one more scene, so he had to run out with no pants on and stay behind the sofa the whole time and do a scene.
Famous one, yes. They shot him from the waist up. Yeah. And he was holding a brandy glass or a sherry. And so if you looked at the whole thing and you were in the studio, there he was with the brandy glass and he had his shorts. Which is Catherine Leigh Scott tells that story.
Well, now that comes right to today when even the newscasters or I or anyone could be interviewed, and it doesn't matter what I have on at the bottom of me, right?
Oh yeah.
We had this.
No, but I mean, the guys don't wear their suits totally. No. They wear their suit and their tie and their shirt and maybe jeans or something. Yeah. I'm not saying they're going naked, but I mean, you don't need to fully dress. No. Don't have to worry about your shoes.
We had a BBC interview here with a really prestigious politician here, and he's being interviewed live on television. And while he's being interviewed, his kids come in and they go, "Daddy, Daddy!"
I saw that.
And you can see the nanny like dragging them out of the room.
I saw that. That was great.
But that's wonderful. I think people love that.
Oh, they do. It's
not like doing a play. I mean, doing a play, it's not so wonderful.
Even us, of course, now I did an interview with Roger Davis, and he was driving his car through LA while I was, and he was talking on his cell phone with Bluetooth, and he's driving through LA, and all of a sudden I hear these shots. And I said, "Roger, what's going on?" He goes, "I just passed the gas station. It's being robbed."
Oh my goodness. Oh.
I mean, one good thing about theater, though, at least it's that night, and then you just kind of move on. I think I did a production of Jesus Christ Superstar, and I was the Roman soldier, chorus person. But I just remember taking Jesus to the front of the orchestra pit, and of course Jesus stopped. The other Roman guard stopped. I didn't. I just fell into the orchestra pit. That's just dragging Jesus with me. So yeah. But the next day you just get back on and no one knows. The next audience never knows. So it's okay.
No, they never do.
Well, sometimes Jonathan, may rest in peace, told the story of when he was doing a Shakespeare at one point live on stage, and he mixed it up and he gave the lines from the wrong play, and everybody was looking at him, and I don't know, he must have had pull or so. He just got, when he realized what he did, he just got mad and he walked off the stage. So I mean, but it's so endearing. It's so endearing because, art is the imitation of life. And of course, Marie, you can speak more to that than I can, but your career has been so diverse, and that's one thing, it's not just Dark Shadows, it's Broadway. You've worked with a lot of people, and hopefully people will listen to my interview with you for the podcast, and you can talk more about that. What's going on so right now you're attending all the classes, and you're living in post-COVID New York. Are the lights going to go up on Broadway anytime soon?
Not anytime soon.
Even on off-Broadway, everything's shut down?
Yes, it's going to take a long time. I mean, there are small theater groups that are doing things. You have to pace yourself and keep your distance and stuff. But there's no way that you can open a Broadway show and have 25% capacity because they lose money, millions, when they have full capacity in some shows. Yeah. So there's no way. So it's going to take another year or two, before it's got to be a way so that we start doing it 100%. I mean, you can open maybe 75%. I'm not comfortable when restaurants start saying they can have 50 and 60% capacity, even with the vaccines, because there's all these mutations that one has to worry about. So
Yep.
I act on the cautious side, I must say, but stay busy creatively. I paint. I painted many years ago. I started when I was backstage and I sold paintings, and
Very
it
cool.
was wonderful. I did oils then, but now I've moved to acrylics because it's easier and faster and doesn't smell. And I just thought I may start looking into watercolors because that's something I never tried. So that's another fun, wonderful.
I like watercolors. I can't do it well, but I appreciate a good painting in watercolor.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because the longer you live, the longer you realize that there are other things to do in your life that you never tried before. Jimmy Cagney, from what I understand, was he was into painting later on in his life, and he did a lot of that.
Many actors. You read about them all the time, have become painters. It's all very closely related, and so
self-expression, isn't it?
Yeah.
So in fact, what's his name? Our wonderful singer Tony Bennett. He's a wonderful painter. He's been painting for many years.
He's over 90 now, isn't he? I think he's
92, something like that.
God bless him. Oh my
God.
I'm actually reading about E. Plum, who played Jan Brady. She is a world-renowned, very respected painter as well.
Interesting. That's interesting.
I was
like, who would have thought she would have gotten into that?
I have to look that up. I did not know that.
Me neither.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And art galleries, everything. So
I know. I just sent a book to someone that is bought for him by another friend, and I worked with him in the theater, and he has been painting for years. So there are lots and lots, and not just dabbling, really good and really selling and just wonderful. So it's nice. I believe that if you're a creative person, you can do it in any area. It's just
probably right.
There are stockbrokers that are very, very artistic.
If I was a stockbroker, I'd look for relaxation in any way I could.
No, but it's more than relaxation. It's a creative thing within them, and I think that the best of them are very creative people. They're not just cut and dry. Lots of us who are creative think, oh, these other people, they're just business people. They're numbers, suits, and they don't have very much art or creativity within them. But I don't believe that's true. I think there's a lot of it, and doctors. Oh my God! You know how many doctors I know that are musicians, really good musicians?
Plastic surgeons. You're going to see a lot of plastic surgeons that are into sculpture because that's part of what they do, obviously.
Oh, I know. My husband was a plastic surgeon, and I always his hands were. I was so attracted to his hands because you could see a creative kind of hand, And I used to say, I bet you'd be wonderful in sculpting, but he never did that. But anyway, it is interesting. They're outlets, but they're even more than that. He's
a nice Jewish boy like me. Did he speak Yiddish?
Yes. When he went to Germany to study, and he got by, he said, with Yiddish, although sometimes it got him in trouble because it wasn't always the correct word, but you could get by with it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I speak it fluently from the house, and and it's 68% German. It's 12th century, middle high German. But it's coming back. It's coming back. You got the Volksbühne theater, the Yiddish theater. It's a loss. It's a beautiful language. It really is a beautiful. So between your Gaelic and his Yiddish, did you? That was a nice match.
When we toasted, we always said "Sloinche l'chaim," because Sloinche is the same thing as l'chaim in Gaelic. Sloinche. It's spelled Slainte. So a lot of people say slante, but it's wrong.
It's Sloincha. Thank you. Yeah, I speak a few words. I got my Kehe Wiltu down, and they'll say Tanago Maya Gastafe, Bricha Sajia Ort. And after that, I'm going to run under the desk. But I just said thanks be to God. Oh, Jal Ort, go to the devil. And that's something that you'll see on Dark Shadows. I always kind of regretted that they didn't have a nice Jewish character on Dark Shadows. That would have been fun. Barnabas, what the hell is the matter with you? Everything is going wrong. Why the hell don't you come out at night?
That would be fun. Well, we could do it in the CDs that we do. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Is Big Finish still got jobs out there for the actors and stuff like that?
Sure.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Anyway,
go ahead.
Listen, guys, I must run, but it was delightful to speak with you, Keith.
Yeah.
And Vicki and Tom. Really fun. And
thank you.
Look forward to the podcast this weekend. It should be wonderful.
Absolutely.
And we didn't speak about Robert Rodin, but a wonderful, wonderful man and lovely and fun. And unfortunately, Eve hated him, and so didn't want anything.
So it goes.
But Marie, as a person, liked Bob very, very much. He was lovely and fun, as all the actors were. But he was quite special.
You could tell you guys were really close friends. There was
yeah.
We interviewed him a few months ago, nice. And he was so nice with us.
Yes,
and anyway. But thank you very much, Marie.
You're very welcome, and thank you. And I do want to wish all of you a happy Easter, and especially our fans, Dark Shadows fans. To all of you, have a wonderful, wonderful, happy and peaceful and holiday, and enjoy it all, and be safe.
Thank you so
Happy
much.
Easter to you.
Happy
Thank
Easter.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
And so, Vicki, what are you doing up to since last time we spoke to you?
Not a whole lot, guys. Like I said, I've been going back and forth about films and stuff we want to cover in the next season and whatnot. Just a lot of reading lately. Those couple of charities I've been trying to get back in the works because COVID kind of screwed things up. I did watch the whole 4 hours of Justice League and didn't understand. I kind of caught the epilogue, but I didn't really get it. I guess that's telling for something that's probably coming out soon. Asher and me are waiting patiently to watch King Kong versus Godzilla next Wednesday. So everybody's waiting for that. I did watch the Hammer film special. I was talking to Joe Rondonzo about that. It's called Flesh and Blood. It's about all the Hammer films. And I had no idea that Hammer made a lot of those films. I had no clue. And I had no idea about the evolution of the Frankenstein monster, too. I mean, he looked like everything. I think Christopher Lee being Frankenstein was probably one of the most horrific guises I have ever seen of the Frankenstein monster. So if you get a chance to watch Flesh and Blood on I believe it's on IFC. It's or IMDb. It's IFC. It was really good. And I watched Dead Silence with the creepy puppet guys. It takes a lot to scare me, but I don't do dolls and puppets. That movie freaked me right the hell out. I mean, I loved it, but I hated it because I don't do those ventriloquist dummy things. And then they had the face of the woman, the gnarly ghost lady. Oh my God, that was just freaking great. I loved it. And Joe, if you're listening, I did watch Kill Baby Kill, and I loved that too. So other than that, just Asher's BMX season and just trying to get back into life in here in Texas. So.
And what about yourself, Tom? What are you doing up to?
Well, things are proceeding. I got my COVID vaccine a couple of Mondays ago. Thank God, the first one. I got Moderna. And and Sharon, my fiance, got her first one last Friday, and so we're getting our second ones next month. And aside from a mild arm issue, which a lot of people get, you get a little bit of a muscle stiffening, more than if you were exercising.
I felt like I got hit with a lead pipe. I don't know.
Was that the first one or the second one?
Pipe in my arm.
Was The first shot or the second shot?
Both of them.
Oh, both of them you got hit like that. Well, I'm not looking forward to the second shot because I hear
I felt it go in. Let's just say that.
Oh God! Well, did they do it in the shoulder? Because if they do it in the shoulder, it's a little better because they've had Keith can talk to that a little more.
Well, when you got all these people waiting in line to get vaccinated,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they sat us down. So
we were in a car. We were in the car thing with the cones.
Oh boy!
I go that way.
Oh boy! Well,
I only did it for my mother and father because I loved them so much.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I don't.
Not for you. Huh? Hopefully, you have something to do with this as well. But no, it's good. Especially you had COVID already, didn't you?
I had it last year. Towards the end of the year, it's
me too. So it is what it is.
That was that not tasting and smelling shit that freaked me out. It's like, what is this?
I'm just glad it's over. At least
it's over for me.
So hopefully it'll be over for me.
And Vicky's taste still hasn't returned.
Shut up. If you were here, I would have breathed on you. But no, he doesn't catch shit though.
I don't catch things.
Well, he's probably got one of those where his ancestors had the bubonic plague, and I hear that if you have that, you were not going to get COVID. So maybe that's why you didn't. But anyway,
working in a hospital, you're so open to everything.
That too. That's like Scott. He doesn't catch anything. He didn't even catch COVID. Everybody's getting COVID around him. Man, just like immune. It's like, what is this?
Well, there are some people that thankfully. Anyway, so what else? There's something very interesting that Sharon and I saw called the London Hospital, which is on BritBox, and it was a mini series regarding the London Hospital as it was in the turn of the last century, and very, very well acted, very, very stylish, some really good medical stuff. When everybody was breathing on everybody else, infections were rampant. 1 out of 5 people were dying.
Old days.
The good old days when 10-year-olds were prostitutes and all that good stuff.
You can only go back.
You got old quicker back then. YOLO.
Yeah,
we can only go back. Those were the days, my friend.
Only go back so far.
They never end.
I haven't seen it yet, but The Irregulars is starting today. I think.
Yeah, we're gonna watch that.
I heard of that. Brief me really quick.
It's the Baker Street Irregulars, the Sherlock Holmes little ragamuffins.
Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
But this is with a horror bent, and they go after horror cases. And Holmes and Watson. That's on BritBox.
No, Netflix.
No, Netflix.
Oh, Netflix. Okay.
That's Netflix. Thank you. And Sherlock and Watson are on there, but they take a backseat to the irregular team in Victorian London. So that ought to be very interesting.
Very cool. I'll check it out.
Also, this new series, which I haven't seen yet, called Clarice, which I think
I saw that. Didn't watch it.
Oh, yeah. How was it?
I haven't seen it. I just know it's about.
My housemate's watching it and he really likes it. It's he's enjoying it. So
yeah. So those are.
I figured it'd be a hard act to follow.
I don't know. They did Hannibal, which is also based on the Silence of the Lambs universe, and Hannibal was excellent.
Pretty good.
I really liked it.
Yeah, they had that for a few years.
I recommend it.
So that of course, and I'm finishing. Sharon and I are finishing the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes, which is absolutely. I mean, he is sine qua non. He even replaces Rathbone. Although there are fans that'll say that what's his name? The Benedict Cumberbatch from Sherlock is the guy to watch. Right. But Jeremy Brett, unbelievable because they do those episodes. I'm a Sherlock Holmes fan. Looked at the 56 short stories, 4 novels when I was a kid, so I was really into the fandom when I was back then, and it's really done true to form. It's a shame that Jeremy Brett passed away when he did, congestive heart failure at I think age 61. He was young, but those are very, very. But I recommend that for anybody who's into detective. And there's even one episode called The Adventure of the. Well, they call it The Last Vampire for the show, but it's from the Doyle short story The Adventure of the Sussex Vampire. And they enlarged upon it. It's a 2-hour episode, and they did a number of them. They're very, very good. So I recommend that highly. So, and schoolwork, of course, is proceeding, and there are a couple of job opportunities I'm looking into. So that's where I am.
Oh, before I forget, I posted it for everybody. We all like those crime stories and stuff. Now the name is eluding me. He played on American Horror Story. He's going to be Jeffrey Dahmer, the crazy kid.
Oh, okay.
What's his name?
Evan Peters.
Yes. He's going to play Jeffrey Dahmer. Look, I can't wait for it to come out. It looks really good. So,
absolutely.
And myself, well, I had this week off, so I was able to catch up on all our editing of our episodes. So sorry for people who are waiting for those, but they're all up and we're up to date now. We also have now edited together the Easter special interview with Chris Pennick, which will be out on Good Friday.
Yes.
We'll be out the day before our classic novels, which will be Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels and the Three Worlds of Gulliver that we'll be covering. So it'll be out on the Good Friday. Our regular episode will be out on a Saturday. And let's see what else. Oh, I've been watching some interesting stuff on Netflix. I've been going for more independent-y kind of films. So I watched this fantastic film called Tucked about this old drag queen who's 75 years old, who's got cancer, and he takes under his wing this young guy. Beautiful, really well done.
What's it called?
Tucked.
I didn't see that on that. Maybe do we have it here?
Some of the best acting I've ever seen. It's only like an hour and 10-15 minutes. It's excellent. And I saw this other one called Other People about this boy who goes home, and it has Molly Shannon, and she's dying of cancer. So it basically covers one day a month until she passes, and the relationship within the family. Beautiful, funny, sad. but brilliant. It's Molly Shannon is brilliant.
Saturday Night Live, right? Wasn't she on Saturday Night Live? Yeah, I remember her. Yeah, the Sweaty Balls sketch.
Yeah.
No, she's good.
But it also has the guy from West Wing in it as well. The ginger haired one. I can't remember his name. What his actor is.
I know who you're talking about. Oh God, Josh.
Yeah, Josh.
Right? Yeah. Bradley Whitford. Whitford.
That's it.
He's
excellent.
I loved West Wing. God Almighty, West Wing was and of course they have West Wing podcast galore on Podbean. But they actually have the Actors Fund goes on YouTube, and they interview the casts of various shows now to get back together, and ever since Broadway went dark, in order to get donations for the Actors Fund. They did a West Wing. They've done Little House on the Prairie for some strange reason. They're a Little House on the Prairie fans.
I like Little House on the Prairie, but I just can't imagine doing a podcast.
The Reverend.
Forgive me, I know.
The Reverend cracked me up, and I want to thank everybody coming to the sermon. He was. I think we talked about that last time. But they did Little House on the Prairie. They did all kinds of. They brought a lot of people back together, which just to talk and.
Actually, to skew from Little House on the Prairie, Michael Landon's son, Christopher Landon's new movie called Freaky. Watch that. That was excellent as well.
Oh really?
I remember Michael Landon's.
I'm trying to find these things and bookmark everything as you're telling me.
I remember Michael Landon's contribution to horror, the werewolf. I was a teenage werewolf. Which it's a nice little campy classic.
Christopher Landon also did Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You.
Okay. I love those movies. I like the first one a whole lot better than the other ones, though. Yeah. First one was great.
He writes and directs now, so I got Freaky a call. So
yeah, I love Happy Death Day.
Yep.
And I watched the new Wrong Turn film, which I really liked a lot.
I watched that too. I kind of like the older one a little better.
I like the simple fact that that what they've taken was they could have remade it and just done it like the
same thing. Yeah, it was definitely a different story.
But I like it. I like it that it's basically the same, but like another chapter in another place.
Yeah, that's a good way to explain it.
And I quite like the idea that when a bunch of SJWs get killed, it's always good by me. So So, but yeah, so I quite like that. And then, yeah, I've just been taking it easy, catching up, finishing off my TV series and stuff like that, which now I'm ready for a brand new course of television to watch. So,
Yeah, I'm
which
kind
I
of
will,
that too.
and I'll probably springboard that with the regulars, but I still, the one about the train, Snowpiercer.
I still gotta write that down. I keep meaning to watch that, and I totally keep forgetting to do
I
that.
recommend everyone watch Snowpiercer. It's set in the future. It's not kind of a science fiction-y, about the world's been turned under ice and the social class systems on a train. So it's very, very good. Can be a bit violent at times, but it's very, very good.
Right.
So, but other than that, yeah, just carrying on. I'm back to work on Thursday at my new office. So I've been moved to an office, and I'm now just won my 7th Employee of the Year award at work. So
if they only knew you like I did.
Yes, another 30-pound gift voucher from Marks and Spencer's, and a paper and a photocopy certificate with my name written on it and some ballpoint pen. Yay!
And which costs 60 cents to put on the computer. You know, that kind of thing.
Because you should put your name under it. It says Akeem.
So is your office bigger than the one you had? Or,
I have a window now. It's the first time I've had a window in 30 years.
Oh my God, that's so important.
So I got a window.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What is it overlooking?
It's overlooking
Limehouse.
Actually overlooking the gym, the hospital gym. So I'll see who's exercising, who isn't, sort of thing.
Oh, there you go. You just get a pair of binoculars, you know.
Well, I'm going to get one of those time lapse cameras and put it out there so I can see if people are gaining weight or losing weight.
You can blackmail people. You know, it's wonderful. You got a new career there. That'd be great. Yeah.
So it looks like April will be a brand new time for when I go back to work. So that'd be good. And then I think shielding patients and shielding people ends here on the 31st. So everyone has to go back to work, and we start opening up soon. So
right, good deal.
So you're out of lockdown as of April then?
April 19th is the end of lockdown. Shielding people have to all get out of their houses on the 1st of April. So there's no more furlough. There's no more everything. Everyone has to go back to work.
Cross your fingers. Yeah, New York City is going back to their office. The New York City of New York is going back to their offices May 3rd.
Or New York City. The once great New York City. Good. Now a pile of rubble.
God, I'm glad you didn't say that when Marie was on, but because that's her love. But
love New York. I used to live there.
I'm talking about New York City.
I love New York.
That's right.
Or we could break out into Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, I don't know. I think it's too early, but we'll see what happens.
Well, let's see what happens. I mean, life's got to get back to normality. I mean, the good thing about here is by July, all citizens of the UK will be vaccinated. It's by the July, so that's good. So we're.
Well, that's good.
It's causing a bit of conflict with Europe, but I mean, that's always going to be a pissing match between Europe and Britain because of Brexit. So that's never going to change. So it's going to
there's always going to be something.
What's the popular vaccine in the UK, Keith? Is that
both of them, Pfizer, the Oxford one. Well, we call it the Oxford one. What you call
AstraZeneca or something?
Yeah,
those ones aren't as well. I know Pfizer is, but they say that the AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson aren't near as effective as the other two.
I'm not quite sure. We're not going to get the Johnson & Johnson over here. The UK's vetoed that to become over here, so we're not getting that one for whatever reasons. The Oxford one, I mean, there are some negative press going on about the Oxford one, about blood clots and stuff, but I think what people need to realize, they're not talking about the vaccine. The Oxford one or Zeneca one, they're coming out with a pill. They're thinking about doing it in pill format, and it's the pill format that they're having a bit of side effects in the trials at the moment.
I saw that.
When you're reading that, they're talking about the trials of the pill, not the actual vaccine. So
right, I was reading something about that yesterday. It's the first time I've heard about it. Interesting.
Yeah, so they're going to try to get it into pill format, so that hopefully, if this is going to end up being a yearly thing, that basically everyone will just drop a pill once a year, sort of thing. But it's being looked at. We'll see what the next year brings, sort of thing.
I'm sure the pharmaceutical companies are really happy about it.
Yeah, I'm sure that they'll rake us over the coals for that.
Oh, pharmaceutical, they're making billions. What are you talking about?
Nobody deserves to be that rich. I don't care. Who needs us? I just never understand the
tell the CEOs that
of greed.
Well, I mean, To play devil's advocate, the thing about pharmaceutical companies is that if you want the best scientists working for you, you're going to have to pay them. I know that CEOs are making money. Don't get me wrong. I'm not.
Hand over fist.
But at the same time, it's still going to cost a lot. Let's sit there and say the CEOs weren't making that much money and they control them. You're still going to want to get the best scientists working for you.
Right. Well, yeah, that's a given. But the CEOs, nobody deserves that kind of money.
Well, I mean, CEOs for anything, whether it's a charity or anything, loads of money. I mean, I know a friend of mine who used to work for Amnesty International, and the CEO for that company in the UK never went anywhere unless it was a limo car.
Yeah, I believe that.
And every year they would trash their offices and get brand new computers, equipment, and brand new desk and everything, and take everything that they had and throw it in the garbage. They didn't even donate it. So
it's a totally different business now, but voiceovers years ago, 30, 40 years ago, the ones who were doing well insisted on being taken in cars to the studios where they recorded. That's gone now, because the world has changed with doing voiceovers from your home, and you have to be an audio engineer in addition to an artist in order to do that. But years ago, if you were good, that was part of the deal. So there it is.
Yeah, the world has moved on.
Yep.
So that now brings us to the blooper section of our podcast. So take it away, Tom.
Hello, everybody. Tom Diamond here for Literary License Podcast. We are here to go over episodes 506 to 524 in the Dark Shadows retrospective. Before I begin this and talk about the stars, we do want to memorialize the fact that Robert Rodan passed away, according to Shadowgram and Marcy Robin, on the 26th of March. And that was exactly the day that we were taping the regular installment of these episodes for the podcast. I did not know about it until after the podcast that night. I am taping this segment the next day, which we usually do. Either we tape certain segments before or after, and that's for the benefit of the fans. So, condolences to Robert Rodan's family. It's especially poignant since he is on a number of episodes in this block, is a pivotal character as Adam. And we also have Marie Wallace as guest star, and she was talking to us about her reminiscences with Robert. I spoke with his son early this morning. Jordan was very appreciative of the interview that the podcast did with Robert 7 months ago. And Robert listened to that, and he was very happy that came off. So once again, rest in peace, Robert. So moving on to the stars of this block. Okay, the big new appearance here is the start of Humpert Allen Estrado, who plays Nicholas Blair and will go on to play other characters during the series run. Humpert Allen Estrado was in episodes 521, 522, and 523. He was born April 4th, 1929 in Pasadena, California. Passed away February 19th, 2016 in Guilford, Connecticut. Moving on. This block is notable because 4 actors went on to do double duty in reprising 2 roles that they were noted for, one for the present and the one for the 1795 block. Jerry Lacey portrays Tony Peterson in this block and comes on as Reverend Trask, the ghost of Reverend Trask, in this block, who makes an appearance and wows us all with his "I abjure the old serpent," etc., etc. In episodes 509, 510, 511, 512, 513, 516, and 519, among others. Joe Crovers does double duty as Nathan Forbes from the 1795 block, the ghost of Nathan Forbes, and Joe Haskell, in episodes 512, 513, 514, 516, 519, and 522. Roger Davis comes on late in the block, portraying Jeff Clark and the ghost of Peter Bradford in a dream sequence, and that's in episodes 523 and 524. And Joan Bennett, who is Liz, is possessed by the spirit of Naomi due to Angelique's spell, and she comes on in a few episodes, literally reprising the role of Naomi. Addison Powell, or that is the voiceover of Dr. Lang from the tape recorder, comes on in episode 506, only the first one. He's on for that. Other than that, you're going to see appearances from almost every character in the show, with the exception perhaps of Mrs. Johnson and son Harry, who's lurking somewhere in the attic doing who knows what. But with the exception of those two, you have appearances from practically every cast member doing something or other. Thayer David is Stokes in 507, 510, 513, 518, and 521, among others. Again, Robert Rodan, who appears in 508, 509, 512, 514, 515, 518, and 521. So David Ford does a good job as Sam Evans in episodes 508, 509, 512, 515, 517, and in 5018 you see the death of Sam Evans. Again, he had a lot of problems with his lines at this point, and they made him blind. They made the character blind in order so he could read off the teleprompter. And that was, however, not enough to cause his death. But it's not the last time you see him as Sam Evans. He will come back as his ghost in another episode, which will be in a later block. From a technical standpoint, John Weaver was the director of episode 509. That's the only time we see him. Episode 509, by the way, was preempted due to the assassination of Robert Kennedy, RFK, and that was shown the next day. David Hennessy as David, you'll see him in a number of episodes. Now, the trial of Barnabas Collins, presided by the ghost of Reverend Trask, who has him walled up so that Jonathan can take vacation for a week, was done in episode 511. And you have a number of characters playing the ghosts of 1795 characters. Maggie Benson portrays the ghost of Maud Browning in 512, and that was formerly played by Vala Clifton in 1795. Jane Draper reprises her role as Suki Forbes, or the ghost of Suki Forbes, for this episode. Timothy Gordon comes back as ghost of Jeremiah. Tom Gorman comes in as the ghost of Ezra Simpson, a crooked judge. And in 1795, Tom Gorman, who was a Blue Whale extra in this block, usually portrays the bartender of the Eagle in 1795, and now here he is in the same clothes and wig coming back as a judge. Natalie Norwick portrayed the ghost of Ruby Tate. Natalie Norwick is famous in the movies for her roles in 87th Precinct, Star Trek, the original series, and I'd like to see who she portrayed on that, because it doesn't come to mind right away. 23 Steps to Baker Street in 1956, Perry Mason, Miracle on 34th Street, and Rebel Without a Cause. Catherine Lee Scott does some work as Maggie Evans in 513, 514, 515, 517, and 524. John Carlin does some duty as Willie Loomis in 514, 515, 516, 522, and 506. That was a little out of sequence. Florence Stanley comes back as the voiceover of Josette crying in 515 and 516. Louis Edmonds is here doing a little work as Roger in 519, 521, and 522, among other episodes. Alexandra Moltke, Vicky Winters is here as 519 and 523, portrays herself, and also in 524 portrays a very brief cameo of herself in the dream sequence in 1795, along with Roger Davis and Joe Crothers. And finally, James Shannon comes on, reprises his role as the Gowler in the 1795 dream sequence. He played the Gowler during the 1795 flashback. Coming now to the bloopers. The bloopers here, while there aren't many, there are a few significant ones, and I'm not going to be going into the ones with the usual mic booms and shadows of mic booms on the wall and by the fireplace and so forth. But there are some. But anyway, so the ones here in episode 506. So Carlin is Willie and Barnabas are in the cave. They're looking for Adam, and as the scene ends, Barnabas walks out of the cave Willie is looking at him, looking concerned and frightened. And then Carlin, I think, thought that the camera was off, so he broke character, and actually I'm going to change that because I think Fred and Carlin were still talking. So Carlin thought the camera was off. His face changes from fear to he starts to laugh, and he starts to talk to Fred out of character. In episode 507, you'll notice right away the exposition when they're showing Collinwood. Now, this is not something you see often, but the music cue apparently was played at a higher rate of speed, and you could tell because it was playing in a higher key. So whoever was controlling the music stopped it and then started it again at normal speed while they were still taping. And again, we talked about the mic boom and this is in 507 once again. The Dream Curse there in the Dream Curse this time there was no psychedelic visual effect in the beginning of the dream. Those things are a ripoff from, if you guys remember, the Green Hornet, which was going on at the particular time. It's the same kind of psychedelic effect that reminded you of a bee. In 508, you can see David Ford looking at the teleprompter, and that's because once again he had problems reading it. He was blind at one point, and you could see he was always looking into the camera, always looking at the teleprompter. So it was even more noticeable, interestingly enough, after they made him blind. There was during the credits, and you really have to look closely in it's the old house drawing room, and you see the curtains. There's a hand moving behind the closed doors very fast, and that's in the credits. And that was episode 508. 509, interestingly enough, was preempted because that was the day that Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated, and so it was aired the next day. Sam, this one is kind of unclear. So David Ford as Sam says, "I'm fed up. I can be taken care of." Well, he's blind. Maybe he meant to say, "I'm fed up. Maybe I could take care of others." But I would think that if there's obviously some conflict about his ability to be taken care of, but it's very nebulous. I can't figure it out. Maybe you guys can. 510 has a famous blooper in the credits. You guys should be looking at the credits more if you haven't been already for these. Thayer David, during the credits, walks on the stage with clothes wrapped around his arm. He did not know the camera was moving, or I should say the camera was hot. When he walked onto the stage, he saw it. He looked startled, and he hurriedly walked off the set in the opposite direction to the left. You're also going to see, and I think it was in 511, but you may see it in another episode, where the chroma key of Trask's ghost, because the camera was shaking, and when the chroma key was superimposed onto the camera, so the image of Trask's ghost moves up and down the scene while he's talking. It's really very funny. A big thing in 511 is, of course, when Trask places Barnabas in the wall. Now, remember, the 3/4 of the wall is boarded up. So how is Trask going to fit Barnabas into the wall? Is he going to fold him like a pancake and put him in the quarter of the wall that's broken into over the top? It doesn't make sense. Funny thing is that the skeleton also in this episode has Scotch tape between the forehead and the cranium. Obviously, the top part was loose, and they put Scotch tape to keep it together. But it really looked. It's not often that you see a 200-year-old skeleton with Scotch tape over the skeleton's forehead. And if you look very closely, when Jonathan is in the wall with his hands above him tied to the rope, you're going to see that he's wearing a pinky ring that has on the left hand that has nothing to do with Barnabas. The famous Barnabas ring is on the right hand. That pinky ring is Jonathan Frid's Yale University graduation ring. He received an MFA in dramatic arts from Yale, and so there is a tribute to Yale from Dark Shadows. Between episode 515 and 516, also, the last scene of the prior episode, when Willie stumbles into Maggie's room after Joe had beat him up outside, he sits down on the steps in order to get his bearings. They restaged that scene in the first scene of the next episode, and this time Willie stumbles into the middle of the room and he falls down by Maggie. A very, very big difference. Okay, so now in episode 516, you've got the mausoleum scene where Cassandra takes Liz to try and convince her that she is Naomi, and she shows her Naomi's tombstone. The first scene that you see is a shot of Naomi's tombstone with the old date of it of 1821, and of course we all know that Naomi committed suicide in 1796. Or 1795, whichever one you want to say it, but definitely not till 1821. They never changed that one. So what they did in the next episode, or the next scene, I should say, was to put a piece of cardboard, a piece of blank cardboard, over the original stone, and that was obviously to convey to Liz that she was Naomi and she was going to die there. But the cardboard was loose and you could see it peeling from the top. And Joan Bennett saw that when she went into the room, and she put her hand against the cardboard while she was emoting so that the cardboard wouldn't fall off. And after a while, I think she got tired of leaning against the thing, and she had to take her hand away. And while the cardboard didn't fall off, you could definitely see the top of it had peeled off from the other stone. Also in 516, Alexandra Moltke as Vicky makes a very rare blooper. She sees the spirit of Trask, and she calls him Reverend Brand instead of Trask. Now, Reverend Brand had married Barnabas and Angelique in 1795, so that's a biggie. In 517, it's the hospital scene with Sam is, and the IV on top of it, it looks like cherry syrup. It's a small IV with cherry syrup. And in the next episode, you see two IVs. That small IV is now empty, and the big IV has cherry syrup in it. And, of course, you could make the argument that the small IV had already gone into his body system, the contents of it anyway. But this was supposed to have happened right away. It wasn't hours later. So that's kind of hard to believe. In 518, you got a real biggie. So once again, David Ford is sleeping in the hotel room. He thinks the camera is off at the end of the scene, and then you can see him. He's seen to wake up breaks character, and he points backstage, directing that the cameramen, I believe, shift the camera. Then he realizes that the camera is on him, the other camera on him is still hot, and he starts to smile. 519 has a great blooper. Trask is exercising Cassandra and gives his Judge of the Quick and the Dead speech. And he has a surprise visitor, the Collinsport fly. The Collinsport fly lands on Trask's mouth while he's spouting all these exorcism. And Jerry Lacey does a great job of trying to pretend the fly isn't there. But the fly keeps going back and forth and tries to land on his lips. And Trask finally, and Jerry Lacey finally has to spit him off. And the fly then lands on Trask's right shoulder, and so the Collinsport fly is a fan of Trask's elongated exorcism speech. Also look for Trask's tongue twister in episode 519. Thou suffering servant of Satan! That's cute. Okay, in episode 520, that was the last one Joan Bennett was going to be in for a while. Her contract called for a long vacation since she was the movie star, so to speak, of The Dark Shadows. So while she did an affected suicide attempt as Naomi, having been hypnotized by Angelique into thinking she was Naomi, and falling down in the tower in front of Barnabas. Well, after that, she was out of the country for 2 months, and my understanding was she came back 9 weeks later to the show. Just like earlier, when Jonathan was walled up as Trask, he wasn't seen for a week, so he probably took a week off. Now, I don't know whether that was either on vacation or because he had to go on tour. Because remember that they were making him run all across the country at that point for appearances as Barnabas. So either one was happening. Now, in 520 thereabouts, you're going to see, if you watch Amazon Prime, they talk about a blooper where a hand appears to close the front door of Collinwood as Roger goes into the drawing room. In actuality, something like that did not occur until the next episode, 421. And then it wasn't a hand closing the door, it was a hand opening the door. And it was a male, and you could see he was wearing a short-sleeve shirt while he did that. The sound effects now, Peter Prescott is seen as somebody doing the substitute sound effects, and I think a technical director is a Mike Stanislavski. Those sound effects were not the best, by the way. For one thing, while you hear a knock in the cellar, and that's supposed to be Barnabas somehow trying to alert people that he's that he's walled up. Now, it makes you wonder how he could knock at any place on the wall, since his hands were tied to him and they were above him, and unless he was somehow able to maybe kick the wall with his foot. And maybe he did that, but it's kind of hard to believe. But he certainly didn't do it with his hands. Also, it may have been this episode or one just before it, but I think it was this one. If you look at the credits, apparently the roller that runs the credits vertically froze, so the credits stopped. And whoever it was couldn't get the credits rolling again, so then the credits disappear from the screen altogether. You hear the music, and then finally the copyright comes on, and it's 1966. And of course this episode is in 1968. Also look, if you're really, really trivial, look in a couple of episodes on the credits for the 1967 copyright. And all these episodes are done in 1968. Episode 521, Louis Edmonds makes a very rare blooper when he's talking about Liz's attempted suicide, and he says she's the last person in the world who would think she's someone else. Well, I think that what he really meant was she's the last person in the world who would think of harming herself. Also, as Roger goes into the drawing room, Louis Edmonds does that. You see a hand moving in and out of the view. And finally, last but not least, probably the most famous blooper of the block, John Carlin is sitting down in the cellar while he's working, and he looks up and he emotes the line, "This place gives me the willies." And Carlin then breaks up out of character, starts to laugh, and he says, "The willies, that's funny." And as soon as he says that, to the left of him, a stagehand moves into the scene and moves out of the scene. And I think you also see a grip. There may have been no, actually, I'm going to take that back. There isn't a mic. But those two things come together. Carlin's breaking up and the guy moving in and out of the scene. And Carlin once says, "The willies, this place gives me the willies, that's funny." And they brilliantly tried to cover this up by having Carlin do a voice over them, which says, "My life, that's funny." Talking about Willie's life. But I think that was basically damage control. This blooper is probably one of the best ones in the show. And that's it for this block. And we thank you very much for listening. And now let's get back to the show. But once again, Robert Rodin, rest in peace. You made a difference.
Hi, I'm Vicki Ray.
And I'm Keith Shago, and this is the Collinsport News.
After Adam swan dives off the cliff of Widow's Hill, Willie and Barnabas decide to go searching for the body. Willie complains of searching for a dead man and is totally distraught to the point that he must tell Carolyn about the dream he had. Yes, it can be confirmed that even though Carolyn is suffering from PTSD, being rescued by Adam from falling off Widow's Hill, and after that she witnesses his leap from the infamous cliffs, Willie feels that he must share his dreams with Carolyn. Willie, always putting others before his own needs.
After Willie shares the dream curse with Carolyn, Professor Stokes swoops in to save the day and tells Carolyn that he will be her dream guide. He tells her that she should experience the dream, but he will be there to ensure that she will not suffer from the traumatic side effects. He implements himself into the curse, so after Carolyn goes door to door, Professor Stokes is the one she must tell, which she does.
Meanwhile, Professor Stokes then proceeds with the dream curse and confronts Angelique, letting her know that he has her number and that her days are numbered. She is not amused and a bit taken back as she has met her match in Professor Stokes. Meanwhile, Adam appears at the Evans' cottage where he finds Sam looking like one of the three blind mice from Shrek.
Dark Shadow, stealing from Shelley's Frankenstein, recreates the blind being kind to the blind man, as apparently only a blind man can understand the grunts and groans of a deeply scarred tall man who's made up of human parts. Adam responds to the kindness that the blind mouse, Sam Evans, offers Adam.
Cassandra, a.k.a. Angelique, summons Tony, which, like a lapdog, comes to her. She tells him that he must poison and kill Professor Stokes, which he agrees to do. He will keep the poison in a very effeminate ring, which he will wear. Why anybody would think that Bogart impersonator will wear a woman's ring is beyond me, but he does agree. He shows up after some uncomfortable conversation. Tony tries to poison Stokes' drink, but Stokes, being the mastermind that he is, switches drinks and Tony falls down poisoned. Stokes calls Julia to cure Tony. Julia can do pretty much anything.
Julia shows up and magically restores Tony back to health. Stokes confronts Tony about Cassandra, and they agree that they will stop her, and that the best way to do this would be to hold a seance and contact Reverend Trask, which they discover that is in the old house basement. They decide that they will summon him back so he can wreak his revenge on Angelique/Cassandra.
The seance is held at the old house with Julia, Professor Stokes, and a very uncomfortable Tony who thinks that this is all hogwash. Tony brings through Professor Trask. Wait, I forgot to fix that one. Cut. Tony brings through Trask, and they tell him that the real witch is Angelique. Seance over, they depart, and Reverend Trask Ghost comes forth stating that he will get his revenge on Barnabas. We now learn a classic story that if everyone is not totally informed of the true history, that things can go awry.
Trask Ghost appears to Barnabas, and they throw him back to time or through a dream, not quite sure, but in the cellar, the figures of the past come forth and hold a mock trial or a kangaroo court, finding Barnabas guilty. Barnabas' punishment is poetic justice, and he has to be walled up alive behind the wall, as he himself did to Trask.
Angelique shows up at the Evans cottage to help push her dream curse along, and there she sees Professor Stokes, who isn't dead. She is a bit taken back by this revelation, but this will not stop her. Not this woman who is scorned. She runs back to Collinwood and summons Tony out to the garden or patio or whatever the fountain place is. Let's just probably say the most secluded place to meet a lover, considering that it is not right outside the house. Tony shows up. Cassandra is not happy about the failed attempt, but she gives him a kiss, which Elizabeth Stoddard catches. Tony leaves, and Cassandra has one more thing to deal with.
Cassandra goes into the house and plays coy with Elizabeth, tells her that she will tell Roger of Cassandra's infidelities. Cassandra puts a curse on Elizabeth and tells her that she will be obsessed about death yet once again. Yes, Elizabeth will be in fear of death and get all morose, so here we go again. She walks through the house, bringing everyone down who speaks to her, and eventually turns into Naomi and not being able to differentiate between the past and the present.
Meanwhile, Adam shows up at the Evans cottage to spend time with his new blind friend Sam and scares Maggie. Adam doesn't like Maggie, and it all gets out of hand, with Adam so upset that he knocks blind Sam to the ground, causing him to be hospitalized. Let's just say that Sam's reading the auto cue and overreacting days are numbered.
And Josette is doing her crying thing, as she is as over-emotional in death as she. After questioning Willie, they go down into the cellar and realize that Trask has had his revenge on Barnabas and find him behind the brick wall in the cellar. Willie tears down the wall to get Barnabas out.
Cassandra goes to a hospital to entice Sam into the dream curse, which he does. He must tell Victoria, and after many failed attempts, dies before he can share this with Victoria. Victoria feels guilty about not being there for Sam's last words, but don't worry, she's not that distraught because she gets past it pretty quick.
Professor Stroke befriends Adam and decides that he will teach Adam how to read and become a better human. Adam is a quick learner, and he learns to read one-syllable words, although there are some words he'd rather not know, and loses a temper with the flashcards with the offensive words takes place. It seems that Adam's new school buddy is going to work well for him.
Trask appears before Cassandra and calls her out as Angelique. Angelique is truly scared, and he ties her to the tree that Victoria was tied to back in 1795. He accuses her of being a witch, and then she disappears. While this is going on, Elizabeth, totally embracing the Naomi vibe, decides to let history repeat itself and takes poison. But luckily, Julia is on hand again to bring Elizabeth back to health, as she is now a specialist in poison control and how to treat people.
Is it me? Is this block about people missing and searching and people being poisoned?
There is definitely a theme this month. A mysterious man appears named Nicholas Blair, who says he's Cassandra's brother. Let's just say there's no family resemblance whatsoever, and he looks like one who is not to be trusted. Obviously, they lack any ability to read people and invite him in, and he makes himself at home. He questions about where his Cassandra is, and nobody seems to know or to care.
While this is going on, Maggie is staying there to help her through the death of her father, though we see her go up the stairs with her suitcase, and then later we see Joe show up and she leaves, so not really sure how long she's doing there or why. Anyway, she's not an active part of the storyline, so she's pretty much breezes in and out, but I can say one thing, she is over the death of father pretty quick. Bye, Pops.
Blair has an interest in the ugly painting of Angelique, which is now faded. She doesn't help the picture to look any better, but it is what it is. He tries to use the picture to locate her whereabouts, which doesn't help much. So then he turns to Tony after hearing the bitterness that Carolyn shared with him. He hypnotizes him and using the Julia technique gets information about Cassandra.
Peter finally appears from being on the hunt of who he is. Trask Ghost appears and he runs through it, which causes him to freak out. He goes back to the Evans cottage, where he is still staying and dreams about Nathan Forrest, which starts to slam the pieces of who he is back in place. He screams out in his sleep and wakes a sleeping Joe, who is on the sofa wearing his shoes, who wears their shoes to bed. Anyway, Peter wakes between sleep and reason and thinks Joe is Forbes, and they fight until Peter snaps back to reality.
Blair would like to take the picture from Victoria of his sister or Angelique, and she refuses him as she doesn't trust him. Finally, someone has a little bit of sense. Blair is not happy, but he puts a spell on him, which causes Victoria to sleepwalk to the tree that she was tied up to in 1795. He realizes that this is the tree that Cassandra was exorcised in, bringing us to the end of this story of missing people and poisoned people. And I'm Vicki Ray.
And I'm Keith Shago, and this was the Collinsport News. Hello, welcome back to Literary License Podcast, and we're discussing Dark Shadows, episode 504 to 506
to 524.
524.
I gotta put up a sign.
No, it's 505 to 525.
It's 506 to 524 according to the invite. So,
well, I'm just.
Look at the invite.
Yeah, I'm just.
I don't give a shit. We're just.
I do.
Yeah. So, Vicki, what are your thoughts of these episodes?
Okay, these episodes. Well, these were kind of interesting episodes. We still have the dream curse going on, actually, and you got Willie. Willie's got to tell Carolyn his dream, and nothing's worse than Willie having an anxiety attack about having to tell the dream curse, to Carolyn, who's already suffering from PTSD because Adam tortured her kind of, sort of, because he almost dropped her off Widow's Hill. And even though he saved her, she's still having issues, but everything happens to Carolyn. So, but then I thought it was interesting that Professor Stokes had to, induce hypnosis with Carolyn so that she wouldn't suffer during her experience of her dream. And that way, I don't know what they were trying to change with that. They were trying to change something, I guess, where she didn't feel the need to tell anybody the dream curse.
Basically, it's for Stokes to actually have more control over the dream curse and to be able. It
really didn't work.
The dream curse.
I thought, though, that was really a very interesting move to have Stokes say, "I'm going to get into this dream. I'm going to break all the rules.
Right.
I'm going to say the riddle. I'm going to talk. I'm going to make the person who's the beckoner, who is Sam, talk to me. I'm going to make Angelica, who appear to me, and that's kind of and that rattled her. That really rattled her. That's something. And he temporarily was able to stop the dream curse from happening because he apparently has the willpower to resist Angelique. And that's really the first time, unlike Ben.
He's such a different person from his predecessor. And Ben.
Well, Professor Stokes is the super intellectual who has confidence, very familiar with his skill sets, and knows so much about the occult that he feels like he can take Angelique take her on one-on-one, and she's shocked. She just figures, I command, and he goes, "No, you don't command."
She makes it look so easy too.
What's that?
He makes it look so easy with that lighter. If I had a lighter like that, I would just love to do that. People that give me all your money
and his stick pin and stuff like that.
I have to sit there and say that this block of episodes had two common themes running through the whole thing. People who were missing, people being looked for, and poisoned. People were being poisoned
and looked for. You're exactly right.
And Julia Hoffman is now the doctor of
poison.
You go to her, and she helps you out, even when you're falling down the floor.
Julia Hoffman can do anything. She is like the go-to medical doctor for just about anything.
Any hospital would be proud to have Julia in it because she can.
She's the physician in residence.
COVID, cancer, tuberculosis. She solves it all.
Don't forget, though, we got the Mary Shelley retelling of Frankenstein going on, and we've got Sam with those black glasses on. Oh, I can't take it, man.
He looks like an extra from Shrek and Three Blind Mice. You know, Three Blind Mice in Shrek. It's like, oh my god.
Poor Sam. Poor David Ford. told the story last time, and now you can see they made him blind because he was having a problem reading
the
lines.
teleprompter. Yeah,
And so you can see he's always looking into the teleprompter, and that this is giving him free license to do that. But the idea of pairing him with Adam and following up on that blind man Frankenstein from The Bride of Frankenstein from Boris Karloff. So now Sam is taking over the role of the old blind hermit, and they really play it up to the.
All I think about is Peter Boyle. Every time I see this scene, I think of young Frankenstein and Peter Boyle. It's the only thing I see. That's all I see.
Well, I'll tell you.
You like some soup?
Yeah. But the difference here is that at the end, in order to protect Maggie, Sam attacks Adam with the cane, which leads to Adam just throwing him on the floor, and that's and that leads to Sam's death.
Right.
And that is where it deviates from
nothing like a good caning.
To keep him, well, we already know that from Barnabas, so.
Well, I mean, another thing is that to go off script and talk about David Ford, is there any reason why, I'm speculating here, but would him leaving Dark Shadows have anything to do with his failed marriage? Maybe that's the reason why.
Indirectly, yes. He never quite got over. Remember, they got the divorce during the 1795 period, and he had to leave the role as Andre Dupre in order to chill out. And and then when he came back on, he was never quite the same after that. He could never
divorce is not a nice thing. It's really, terrible. Really hard to deal with.
But another thing is that it seems like when he came back, it just seems like the production company or the production team kind of had a personal vendetta against him, because let's face it, after when David Ford disappeared before he came back, let's look at what we've seen so far. We've seen a lot of people hogging the teleprompter.
Yeah.
We had Dr. Lang hogging it. We had Barnabas looking for it left, right, and center, and we had quite a few people looking for it. Well, no, but I'm sitting there saying that we did. We had other cast members looking for it.
Right.
David Ford's punishment because he's looking for the teleprompter to put on dark glasses for him, and you're thinking, well, he wasn't any worse than anyone else on the show at that particular point in time.
They're claiming he got so bad that they did it, but it was kind of a brilliant streak to pair him with Adam, though, and they gave an excuse. Right. But they really did want to get rid of him, and that's why they had him. But this is not the last time. We're not going to go into it, but this is not the last time you see him, even though he dies in this block. They had him on once more, and we'll probably see that in the next block or the block after. I don't remember. But it's a shame, because he was one of the originals. If you remember, we talked about it when he first came. Yeah. And he had the Broadway experience. Leela Swift loved him, and along with Thayer David, who came on also during that block and that time, and he was stalwart. And to see what happened to him since then was I don't think he deserved it. I don't think he deserved to be treated.
I think a lot of thing is that even though he was married to Nancy Barrett, the thing is, though, they never had really any scenes together, so it was pretty easy to keep them separated. So it's not like they had to work together. It's not like
they must have been having problems like early on, because you hardly ever seen them in a scene together.
Yeah, well, I'm saying it's very, very rare. The only time that you would see them in a scene together tend to be at the Blue Royale, and because Maggie was there, and he's like, "Oh, come to get pops," or Maggie, what are you doing here? And Nancy would, and Carolyn happened to be there with Joe at the time. But that's the only time you had scenes together. So it just seemed a bit odd that there would be, to the point that would be affected him. No, they got married during Dark Shadows.
Well, see, there you have it. That stuff never works out usually.
Yeah, but I'm saying that. But the thing is that I was, personally speaking, is like I can understand if let's say that Carolyn married Louis Edmonds. Let's say those two married. And the thing is, they have scenes together and everything like that. And I can understand why there would be a problem there after a divorce. But these people barely had scenes together.
You know? It was a good thing too, because I think, otherwise you never know.
Some people just, it's devastating for some. And
absolutely, and there's no doubt of that. But I think that what
happens
really,
when you marry too young, marry someone younger than you.
Yeah.
I do want to
there.
I do want to interject, and before I forget, to say that there are two things going on in the current world of Dark Shadows. And one of it is the untimely passing of Geoffrey Scott a few weeks ago. Geoffrey Scott, for the new fans, there's going to be a segment called Parallel Time, which is an alternate universe treatment of Dark Shadows in Collinwood, which we're going to be getting to. And that's a mind blower because all the characters are there, but they have made different decisions with their lives. Geoffrey Scott was a heavy, so to speak, on the show. He was the wife of Angelique. He was the husband of Angelique. I don't think he was a wife. He was the husband of Angelique in Parallel Time, but he was also into a lot of voiceovers. He did a lot of movies and stuff like that. And so rest in peace to him. And the other thing, next Friday, April 2nd, is a date that will live in infamy because that is the date of the last episode that Dark Shadows aired back in April 2nd, 1971. So it's the 50th anniversary of the last.
That seems like ages ago now, doesn't it?
But it's a biggie. I mean, I'll talk more about my feelings about that when we're getting to the. We're getting to the denouement here, but I was depressed for a month when that ended, and it was replaced with Password reruns.
I remember Password. I vaguely remember that coming on.
I'm like, I couldn't believe it. Like the next Monday, I got on.
I always hate seeing the end of a show like that. I mean, it's just so hard for some people. It's like, damn.
Terrible! It's terrible. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I expected to get on the following Monday and see another episode of Dark Shadows, and I saw Alan Ludden, and I'm like, "Whoa, who the hell wants to watch?"
Like
Alan
Star
Ludden?
Trek fans were livid.
Yeah, but I also think that we will get to it eventually. But the Dark Shadows ending is probably one of the worst finales ever.
It was very unfortunate. I have to agree with you. It was very unfortunate, but anyway.
We got a lot of time before we get to that.
They're having a Zoom party on darkshadowseveryday.com, one word, which has a great blog with all the trivia, episode by episode breakdown of all the shows, and I've quoted from time to time from their website. They're having a Zoom party next Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And if you're interested, and if any of the fans are interested, please go to that website, seek out Danny Horn, who's the head honcho, and he will send you he will have the link sent to you to go to that party. So I just thought I'd get that in. But Vicky, I didn't want to interrupt you. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, I figured we always get off on our tangent and go into the storyline. I just thought it was an interesting block because you got Angelique summoning Tony, and he's her perpetual lapdog now. You got Julia showing up and restoring Tony back to health because he takes poison. Just like there's a seance, and you got Trask being brought back from the dead.
That's the biggie.
That's and you got Barnabas being walled up in his stead, and
right.
I mean, just so many different things happen in this. It's a great block, though.
I agree. The biggie for me, it's a 1-2 punch, and the first obviously is the Trask, bringing back Trask, and having that trial where that we get to see Maud Browning and Ruby Tate were played by different actresses, but Suki Forbes, Jane Draper reprises her role as Suki Forbes for that one. You see Nathan Forbes come on back again. It's a lineup And as you guys say in Britain, Keith, it's an identity parade.
They could have done better with the skeleton, though, because you could tell it was a medical skeleton because it had that line right here.
Well, did you see the Scotch tape? Did you see the Scotch tape on Trask's medical skeleton forehead? Come on, they couldn't keep the head together between the head and the rest. And they put a piece of on him. Oh, that was wonderful.
There was a lot to laugh at this block episode.
Oh, bloopers? Oh, no, you had a few. You didn't have a lot, but you had.
But they were good.
But the lovely thing is Trask with his by the judge of the quicken. Jerry Lacey emotes like crazy.
He's so Bogartian.
What's that?
He's like, he just reminds me of Bogart. I don't know why. He just
that's you're on spot there, because there was a scene
right down to the coat.
Yeah, there's a scene where he's as Tony Peterson. He's peering into the drawing room of Collinwood, where and Carolyn is. He's looking at Carolyn, and you see him from the back. It's like Bogey. I mean, it's like Bogey in a detective novel. But poor Tony Peterson, unlike Bogey, who takes control of everything, like Tony Peterson is under Angelique's control, and Tony Peterson. I mean, Bogey would be turning over in his grave if he saw what was happening to the Tony Peterson. Right. But
if we ever interview Jerry Lacey, I want him to say in a Bogart style. Pork chops and applesauce.
Pork chops and applesauce.
He's looking at you.
Poor Angelique in this block of films. I totally love Laura. She's just such a beautiful woman, beautiful actress. But I hate this black wig. I don't like the brunette on her. It just drives me.
Well, you do see her as Angelique as
she does pop in
the Dream Curse when Stokes confronts.
Well, she pops in as Angelique here and there as our beautiful blonde Angelique. But I don't. I guess I would have. I just don't do.
I actually quite like what I like about the dark wig. Her as Cassandra is that it's like when she's Angelique, there's an angelic vision of her that you do see.
Right.
There's like the wide eyes and the fresh
like Jeannie's sister or Samantha's sister.
But when she wears a dark wig, the thing is there is this like devilish twink into her eye that she has when she plays Cassandra. There's like this. It's kind of weird because her face kind of changes a little bit, which I quite like. It's like as her as Cassandra, and I understand why. But I understand why she has to wear dark wig. She's two persons. She can't come in looking like Angelique. Hi, I'm Cassandra now. So I understand the reasoning behind that.
And we're also introduced to Blair. Her brother.
That's the other thing. The 1-2 punch.
What a weirdo! I mean, tell me he doesn't look like that normally, and that's just makeup.
No, he did. Well, part of it's makeup, but the widow's peak and all that. He was the devil incarnate.
I'm trying to figure out what he reminds me of. There's somebody, I just can't put my thumb on it. He's just evil, and everybody is so gullible.
Right.
On the show, everybody just, oh yes, this is so and so's brother. Keith could walk in and say he's Angelique's brother. Oh, come on in.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lack of a family resemblance with.
Of course, except that they're both brunette, and that's about it.
Yeah,
but we do find out that Nicholas Blair, what? I mean, I guess we should say not in this block, but we'll find out what he is. Not who he is, but what he is.
Yeah,
well, we already get the nuances of that he's not of this world.
We know that he's, in fact, Barnabas says this is Angelique's spirit brother, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so we know that he's associated with the devil, but that's the 1-2 punch. Trask is the one, and Humphrey Allen Estredo, in a really marvelous, he seized on that.
Yeah, evil. He does.
But more than that, it's a lot of double entendres, double meanings there. And I love the confrontation between Nicholas and Trask, where and Nicholas says, "You were a thief. You were hypocritical. You were an ingrate. But you're a man after my own heart."
Yeah, he was an evil clergy member. Let's remember, in 1795, he was not a nice, upstanding kind of guy. So
No, but Nicholas admires that in him.
Yeah, well, of course, he's evil.
But he's still got to meet, and Trask steps up to the plate. Trask says, "Here is my cross," and he goes, "We'll meet again." That kind of thing.
And then again, if you're a clergy person in that time period, and your congregation's told through brimfire and sin, and that's what you're selling. And the thing is, you need to always prove your point about how evil people are. So you're never going to be a good person, are you?
No.
Any person that sits there and looks for fault in everyone around them to make themselves look better is always going to be a bad person. And that's what Reverend Trask was, isn't it? But make everyone look bad because that makes me look more pure. But the thing is, people who do that, when you look at them, it's deflect, isn't it? Let's deflect from myself. I'm going to make you look at everyone else, because if you look at me, I'm probably the most evil person here.
Right.
And we won't disagree with you there, Keith. But seriously, I think the one thing but even there, the funniest blooper was in the middle of his exorcism speech, and you get a visit from the Collinsport Fly.
Oh, yeah.
who he landed on the guy's mouth, and he had to spit him off while he's doing it. And what happened? The Collinsport Fly then lands on his shoulder. If you stop the video, and for the rest of Trask's exorcism speech, the Collinsport Fly was his biggest fan. Look on his shoulder, listening to him mouth off and pontificate. But we
know what flies are attracted to.
Honey. That. Oh, okay. See, I don't think of those words. But anyway, I think that's what gives this the pizzazz between. We love to see Trask coming, and we get another chance to see him spout off at the mouth and finally exorcise Angelique, or so he thinks, in terms of making up for Vicky's. And in addition, you've got, again, the double roles. So Lacey is doing Peterson and Trask. And in fact, Trask, during the seance, Trask's spirit goes into Peterson, which is natural. Roger Davis, who was only on a couple of episodes, but you've got Peter Bradford and Roger Davis, Peter Bradford and Jeff Clark. Joe Crothers. Also now, Joe Crothers is Nathan Forbes and Haskell. And in the last episode where Jeff has the dream with Forbes, and Peter Bradford attacks Forbes, once again. So there's this connection that the writers want the fans to establish between the 1795. Oh, and before I forget, Joan Bennett, who Angelique cast the death curse on, and that you're going to see for a little while. Joan Bennett took 9 weeks off. So after the show where she drops in the tower room, you don't see her for 9 weeks because she's gallivanting. No, you don't. Joan's gallivanting in Europe for 9 weeks after that. I
kind of wish they kind of went. I mean, I like the Naomi, the Naomi thing. I don't like the thing about her. It always drives up. No, the whole thing about her being obsessed with death, because that seems to be like either. It seemed to be like the go-to for her, because we do see this over and over with her. Because we saw it again when she thought her husband was buried in the
right.
This is like the third three's the charm, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. This is
to be honest, I do think we end up seeing her go through this again at some point again. So.
Yes, we will, and and they did that. They just really milked that too thin. And that might have been one of the only weaknesses. I did like to see her as Naomi again, because I do enjoy and this time she's standing up to who she thinks is Joshua. Now you remember in 1795 she was meek and did whatever she was told, with few exceptions. But here she's giving who she thinks is Joshua hell and high water. And all poor Roger can do is say, Liz, it's me, it's Roger. Don't do this to us, Liz. And she's, and she doesn't care. So I think this
is this time in the sanitarium, isn't it?
What's that?
Didn't they lock her away earlier previously?
Yeah.
In this Elizabeth's second time in the sanitarium.
Well, that's what do you mean, Naomi?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about Elizabeth's daughter. Didn't they? Because she went away didn't they put her away in a hospital? But she disappeared.
That was the
hospital. The hospital. And yes, they did that with Laura. They did when Laura put a curse on Liz during the first. Yeah, this is really a repeat of this. Laura put a curse on Liz, and Liz wound up being comatose
the Phoenix,
in the hospital for a little while. And now you've got really a repeat of this. This time Angelique is doing the job, but the one step further is she's reverting her to Naomi, and that's where you see that. But again, that's emblematic of what they do in this block. They are now giving at least 3 or 4 actors the chance to do double roles, and this is something that was never done in a soap opera before. If you think of the ones that where they have enough problems playing single roles, and there's also a lot of Broadway. They have when they had the trial and they had the ghosts come on. You see the actors disappearing, going off stage as they're concentrating on Barnabas and Trask, and that is part of the Broadway. That is part of the Broadway thing where they would go off. So you see how Broadway is influenced in terms of that. Keith?
I do. Yeah, I mean, I do like the Elizabeth becoming Naomi. I do like that. I just kind of wish that maybe instead of her being preoccupied with death, they could have been like about loss and the loss of everyone around her and that kind of thing. I probably would have liked that. They just went a little bit outside the box, like, okay, well, let's just do this. You did it so well before, let's just do this again, sort of thing.
And talking about the mausoleum, the great, I mean, at first, when you first see the mausoleum again, it's with Naomi's tombstone, the way it was originally done, and they had the wrong date of 1831. And then the very next show, it's a blank tombstone. What they did was to put some cardboard or something over the actual one to make it look like. But then it's great because Joan Bennett is there, and Angelique is and Cassandra is there, and this is your grave, this is your tomb, and whatever is holding that blank piece of cardboard is starting to fall off, and Joan Bennett has to put her hand on the cardboard.
The tomb thing where she's
yes,
I know. Oh my God, that was funny.
Wasn't that a riot? And
I was like, is somebody else seeing this besides me? Because coming off.
You saw it right. And she's putting her hand on the damn thing to steady it so it doesn't fall off altogether. And finally, she takes her hand off, but you can still see it's a little lopsided. It's little
coming open. Yeah,
it's coming open. That's great. That's great. That's what makes Dark Shadows wonderful.
I have to say that Maggie was a bit wasted.
Yeah,
a little bit, because the thing is, like, her father dies. Then she's like, she's going to stay at Collinsport. So she kind of comes in with her suitcase, goes up the stairs. Next episode, she goes out, brings her suitcase down the door, and out she goes with Joe. And that's pretty much it. Like, there's no mourning for her dad really at all, was there?
We're not seeing the blue whale in the inn anymore either, hardly.
No, they didn't have that in this block. There's a brief scene where, but that's like days after the man's death, where she talks with Joe about it. But like for a minute. I mean, you would think that she was a lot more, but they basically keep her upstairs in the Collinwood bedroom resting for
which is kind of odd considering that Maggie.
Why is she there?
Well, because she didn't want to be at home because Adam's running around, isn't he? The guy that killed her father.
That's true. That's true.
So there's that. So a bit of safety. She can't go live with Joe because this is the 60s, so you can't have her living in sin. She's the girl next door. But it's just a bit. I don't know. I do think if I'm going to make, a little bit of criticism, Maggie's whole storyline is about her alcoholic father, Pops,
Basically.
and how she has to take care of
Right.
Pops, and how she has to be there for Pops and everything like this.
Right.
And now that Pops is gone, you think that there would be some more loss.
Liberating storyline.
Well, there could be some liberation, but there's going to be a lot of loss there. I mean, basically, your whole
She's not
world's your
too broken
father,
up.
and your father's dead. That's it.
I know. I she's not really. Yeah, they don't have her very broken up at all.
I mean,
No, not at all.
Victoria.
No,
I mean, she's a bit. Vicky's a bit upset that she wasn't able to hear Sam's last words, which would have been a dream curse to pass on to her.
But even
So
Vicky got over it really quick.
Oh yeah,
It's over everybody's death. I mean, she had no problem after Burke Devlin died. I mean, that she was mourning 3 days, and bam, she was doing something else.
Well, she was thrown back. She was after Barnabas, then, wasn't she?
Yeah.
It's like she went from Bark to Barnabas.
Well, then Barnabas was messing with her with the music box. Then wasn't he though?
Yeah, and then she went back in time, and then we, relived that story. But Sam's passing didn't really seem to be much of a passing or much of a miss kind of thing, which is kind of sad for a lifelong character that's been in it from the beginning of the show. And by this point, we've seen 5 days a week. What is it, a year and a half that we've gone through of episodes now?
Exactly.
So,
at least on regular soapies now, they don't have As the World Turns and stuff like that on now. General Hospital's still hanging in there, but they have memorials, the big picture, and every once in a while someone will have the coffin there because they need to steal some DNA, but for the most part, there's a memorial. Where's the memorial for Sam?
Well, I guess they can't really do a graveyard scene, I guess. I mean, a grave, one of those.
They never really
scenes.
thought of doing the funeral thing for him. I mean, he'll make one more appearance as a ghost, and watch out for that, everybody. But other than that, but what I couldn't understand was, so after all this dream curse thing of going from one to the other, what do they do? What does she finally do with Sam, Cassandra? But she makes him drink something, which allows him to have the dream, because Vicky couldn't get the whole thing in. So then the question is, if that's the case, why can't she just have everybody else have the same potion or something? Make sure that the potion gets to whoever they need.
Yeah, Blair starting. Blair just got here, so he hasn't really got into that part of it yet.
Not yet. No, not yet.
Well, my interpretation of it is that the reason why the potion works on Sam, because he's a bit brain addled anyway from being heavily injured.
Right.
And so maybe that's the reason he was more susceptible. I mean, that's what I was picking up. I could be totally off the base here, but
I don't think I don't know. To be honest with you, I think you might be. That would be an excellent medical reason for it, but I don't think the writers were thinking of that when they
because isn't it what kills him though? What I mean, it's only because he dies, right? Because not telling her. So was it the dream curse that died him, or was it the injuries that Adam caused him that caused?
I think it's the injuries that Adam caused, but that's not really. He just
so
finally.
That's the reason why I thought that maybe the reason why the potion worked is because he's right. He's on his deathbed.
Plus, he's lost the will to live, and he knows he's dying, and that I think is a big factor.
More susceptible to things.
Yeah, he just gave up. He just gave up, and that's pretty obvious. But I think that Stokes, although he obviously didn't want Vicky to hear the dream, he was he was really callous, saying, and that's a very interesting little argument. Yeah, Vicky shows what she used to be when she talks up to Stokes and say, "You can't tell me not to. What kind of an inhuman monster are you?" She implies. You're telling me you don't want me to be with a guy. I mean, he's my friend, and nonetheless, you cannot. And she does it anyway, and nice for Vicky in a way. That's the way she used to be before she became. I don't know what's happening. I don't understand what's wrong. Before so she showed a little gumption there, and unfortunately, it was too late. But
I do. Talking about Vicky, when Jeff Clark comes back from I'm searching for myself tour that he went on, then we basically have basically he sees Reverend Trask, and then he runs through Reverend Trask's ghost form, and then all of a sudden something happens to him. Do we know what exactly happened to him? Does he now fully realize that he is actually Peter Bradford?
I think he had a revelation where he thinks he
much
is.
later.
Oh, that's later? I'm way ahead again.
Not
because
now.
the thing is he runs through Trask's ghost, and then there's like this kind of shutter thing that happens to his body.
Yeah.
He gets
and then he has the dream, of course, that night. So but he acts really, really weird. So it's like
that's right. He's sleeping with his shoes on.
He gets
Joe was
Joe was sleeping with his shoes on.
When Marie Wallace, the first episode of Marie Wallace, she as Eve, she had her shoes on, and a nice pair of shoes too. He gets glimmers. Jeff Clark gets glimmers, and seeing Trask's ghost is the trigger. And it brings out is Peter Bradford. Then he goes right back. Peter Bradford is the unconscious manifestation, and there's a reason for him not. And you won't find this till much later in the series. But there's a reason for it being important for him not to remember that he's Peter Bradford. And that's because once he remembers that, something's going to happen. I don't want to talk about what's going to happen, but that's really what's going on. But we don't know that yet. And so, but now, and I think it's a good technique. The writers are like putting this gray area in there as to, is he going to remember? Is he not going to remember? What's going to happen to him if he does remember? And again, it gives the actors a chance to do the dual roles.
What I'm trying to figure out is, we know Vicky came back in time because she's always been her whole self going back and forth. But is he supposed to be a reincarnation, or was he thrown back in time?
Jeff Clark is the reincarnation of Peter Bradford,
because he really doesn't have a history.
Yeah, he doesn't have like any child history or memories or anything of being Peter Bradford at all either. So it's kind of a weird thing, isn't it? Because
first of all, it comes back as an adult, and it's not like he was born as a child, and then they just
has no history.
They don't really. He has no background except for when he was found in the docks in Portsmouth, walking around, and that's when Lang found him, put him in the hospital, and gave him the name of Jeff Clark because nobody knew. And that's what he's talking about when he goes to Portsmouth to try and see his roots, and nobody can tell him about it. And he's very frustrated when he gets back, and that don't help matters either.
Because he's not a ghost, and it's like,
he's not. He's it's a very gray area, because
if any of our listeners got any answers, please give us your suggestions, because I've been trying to figure this one out for a while.
Give us your theories.
I'd like to hear some theories.
What is Jeff Clark?
You'll find out eventually.
You'll
find out everything eventually, and that'll. But that's not for a while.
I guess it's the same thing. But we can say the same thing with. I mean, the same thing is with Angelique. She comes back to Cassandra, but what is she? I mean,
comes back as like an ascended being,
Yeah, that's probably the best way, or in her case, a descended being. But that's the best way of putting it. Yeah, that's the best way of putting it.
But then I guess later on, when we get to that point, I guess that will be mirrored with the Nicholas Blair storyline that's now started. Right. So that will explain the whole Angelique.
Right.
Very involved. But do you see what's happening already? Now Dark Shadows it's like a motorcycle that's really now speeding down the highway. And the fans have to keep up with the 1795 plot line as well as the current plot line and everything that's going on. And it wasn't easy for them, but a lot of them did it, and then they were fascinated.
Not like we had VCRs back in the day, and you just click record.
That's right. And so it's really a great thing. It's really a great thing to look at these episodes again and to see the intricacy that went into these. You have 4 or 5 plots going on at the same time, and of course you have Maggie with the earrings. Now that's another thing that they're trying. Is Josette's spirit going to be coming back to infiltrate Maggie?
Well, we did get Josette's spirit coming back with the weeping Josette does come back.
And that was Florence Stanley who did the weeping, and she's the one who from Up to Down.
You know what I kind of miss in these newer episodes? I kind of miss the announcer at the end with the Ormonds.
Ed Blaney.
Yeah, or box, you know.
He switched over to sound effects. They stopped using him as an announcer, and they put him into sound effects with the.
Because I thought what it was that because when the
It is
DVDs and the videos of Dark Shadows and television as well, they started from the Barnabas storyline, and
Right.
that's where they would show the reruns and stuff from that point forward. And so I thought that maybe that's the reason why they were wiped out, because before the Barnabas storyline they're there, but the ones before the Barnabas storylines were never in rerun, they're never in circulation really. They came out a lot later. They came out like after the whole show run, and then after you bought the DVD sets or the video sets of Dark Shadows. Once you got from Barnabas all the way to the end, then you were able to get in the beginning, Dark Shadows, the beginning sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't seem like anybody was really interested in that beginning.
Well,
I thought that it really laid the pipe for the whole foundation, though. When you watching
exactly,
that.
but it takes a while for it to take off as well. There was a good 2 or 3 months where it meanders,
and then kind of rough.
And let's be honest, it's kind of flat, really, until we get to the Phoenix storyline, and then it jumps a bit, and then it goes. You
got those Louis Evans slick zingers there, and him pretending to be a ghost outside of the laundry in the attic.
Oh yeah,
which
classic. That's
classic. To this day.
Yeah, but it was something different. It was just like a gothic romance with like intrigue.
Well, I think that's what it was intended to be, and then they
who's gonna take over the family business and get revenge.
There's all gothic romance, and then of course, as we talked about, there was a whodunit. And then it turned into gothic.
Well, it was more
horror.
Jane Eyre-ish, in the beginning.
Yeah, and I mean, you still have a little bit of a whodunit, who murdered Sam, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's Adam, but they don't know. And
I mean, at least it's faster. I mean, it took us a year to find out what happened in that bloody car crash with Burke and Laura and Roger. It was like a year.
10 years later,
and by the time you heard it, we're like, oh, okay, big deal. It's like this huge buildup. It's like, whoa, what's the story going to be? And then it comes out, it's like that person who tells you a joke for like 10 minutes, and then you get to the punchline going, what?
That was a little flat. It was a little flat.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But saying that, I mean, I do love the beginning because I love the Phoenix storyline. I thought that's one of my favorites. So
you'll see her again. I'm not saying when, but you will see her.
I know we'll see her again. So that's something to look forward to. But anyway, so this block once again, in my opinion, just mixes a lot of the mixes and matches. A lot of the plot lines. My only thing, I would have liked to have seen Louis Evans do Joshua again.
Yeah,
and maybe he could have had a fight with the new Naomi, who's standing up to him, and that would have created some more tension. But that's minor. And of course, everybody is so happy when they see Angelique finally exorcised, or so they think. By Trask, but Barnabas, who is now we see that Barnabas and Julia are getting a lot closer. Barnabas realizes that Julia saved him from being suffocated to death behind the wall.
He's still not going to stump her, though, is he?
No.
What?
There's no stumping going on.
He's still not going to stump her.
No.
He's not going to stump her.
No. That's. I
feel so bad because I hate how they. Well, I know they do it to guys too. They make guys look sappy. The perpetual. What's the word? The unrequited love.
Right.
Like the crush you have on the beautiful boy in high school who doesn't know you're alive. Kind of thing. I think everybody can relate, but I just want. But she suffers more than she does. So much for this guy. And it's just like
always will.
I think,
but he just doesn't appreciate Julia.
Well, he doesn't appreciate her the way she wants him to, but at least he says, "You
they're
saved
best
my
friends,
life
though.
again."
Yeah,
they're best friends.
And
they're
now,
buddies.
Right, and now because of that, because he finally realizes now she is there for him.
Yeah,
and
he hasn't strangled her in a long time.
That's true. And
I had something to say about this block though. That's quite interesting. Is this is one of the only blocks that we actually pretty much see every single cast member except for two, and that's Daniel and Mrs. Johnson. We don't see them in this block. We see every other cast member in this block. Which is
Mrs. Johnson's son in these episodes? Is he?
I was just going to say, no. Harry is somewhere in the.
Because I know in the next block he pops in, but I mean,
not in this block.
Can hardly wait for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
He sets a ray of sunshine. That one.
He is such a memorable character.
But I thought that was quite interesting that we got to see like every single main character that
pretty much
every single main character who's interesting. Because Mrs. Johnson, I love Mrs. Johnson, but but her character is Mrs. Johnson, and Daniel's character is Daniel.
I think I noticed a new wig in this block.
Oh, David. I should say David. Sorry. Yeah. So, but all the interesting characters were in this block. Every single.
Even Addison Powell's voiceover in the first episode once again. But that was the last time you hear his voiceover in this block, because then David takes the tape and.
Oh my God, the Deckham tape. Oh my God.
With the.
It's like of all people to trust with it.
Well, they have no idea what's on the tape. They just think it's music, so they let the kid take the tape and bury it somewhere. And and you don't hear hide nor hair of it until for the rest of the block. Yeah, because there's other stuff going on. The major issue is proving Adam is still alive, because once again, Julie and Barnabas don't know that yet. And but it's interesting. So now Stokes is starting to tutor him, and you now see Robert Rodan is going to be getting more and more vocal lines, to the point where you're going to see him talking like the original Mary Shelley Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And
I have to, saying that though, I have to sit there and say that was a really lovely scene between Professor Stokes and Adam.
Yes.
And teaching him how to read and the flashcards. I thought that was
I have to agree. That was a very really nice scene.
But when Adam sees telephone, he says, oh.
Yeah.
Because he associates that with Barnabas's voice. And so, and do
we know how Adam survived the fall?
Did
they give an explanation? No, we don't.
We never accept that it's implied that because he's so superhuman in his strength and everything.
Swam.
And that was how he was able to.
So it's because he's a supernatural being, is how he survived them.
He is supernatural, isn't he? I mean, he's pieces of other dead bodies.
But all the original all the original cuts and bruises and blood in his face, all of a sudden that's gone after a week. And we really don't know. I mean, did Sam take care of him?
That's true.
But does that also have to? But has that have to do? See, I thought the reason why that was happening is not so much as a blooper or a makeup malfunction or whatever. I thought that had to do because he is the essence of Barnabas, but Barnabas is a vampire, so vampires heal very, very quickly. So therefore,
interesting.
So maybe he's healing at the rate.
That's true,
because he is the essence of the Barnabas's vampire.
Yes, but we're being stuck with the Vampire Diary vampires, though, because they don't think vampires.
But even any vampire thing that you see, if they're not staked and they're just like being shot or stuff like that, they heal quickly. Every single vampire does.
Right. Well, Barnabas did get shot a couple of times,
and he heals.
Yeah.
So.
But if the two of them are experiencing the same kind of things, like for instance, Adam, when Barnabas was walled up and his wrists were tied, Adam felt the pain that Barnabas was experiencing. Why then didn't Adam start to asphyxiate because Barnabas was losing air in the wall? But no, Adam breathes perfectly.
But that's one of those things you're not supposed to think about. It's Hollywood.
No, God forbid.
But there is some kind of with Dark Shadows, I mean, they don't. I think when it gets down to the sciences, I think sometimes they kind of skirt over this science part of it.
They sure did.
But I have to sit there and say though, because we do open up with a segment with Barnabas and Willie looking for Adam, and Barnabas knowing for a fact that Adam's not dead, sort of thing. So obviously there must be some kind of interlinking mentality.
But they still don't understand why Barnabas and Adam share that same level together. What they have together, Well,
I don't think. I mean, nothing. Barnabas and Julia, and they don't really. I mean, they still don't know what what the real link is, because the real link that explains the real link is on that tape that no one's heard except for Adam.
But that was kind of a surprise too, though, because that's not where he was going with this. Because originally Barnabas's brain was supposed to be in that body.
Right. It just took a totally different.
Yeah, he's supposed to be Jeff Clark, wasn't he? He was going to turn into Jeff Clark.
Yeah,
that would be even before that. Sure. So it took I think the writers were trying to figure out what to do when they finally realized. There was a whole backstory that Adam was going to be Adam Collins, Barnabas's nephew or cousin. Well, it was cousin, but then Louis Edmonds mispronounced it and said nephew.
Yeah.
But that was, and it just took and then everybody forgot about that. It was a totally different direction.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut to who's our favorite character and who's our least favorite character of this block. Starting with Tom, who's your favorite character of this block and your least favorite character of this block?
The tie that I feel should be between Jerry Lacey and Humphrey Allen Estrada. As I call it, the 1-2 punch once again.
I'm with Tom. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I'm with you on that.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, they, it's always great to see Jerry Lacey do, and even in the subsequent incarnations, which the fans will see, I really like the 1795 Trask the best. Because this was the real, you love to.
He was so dramatic.
Love to see him scream, and
he was
yell.
So crucible.
Yeah. And there was some good. No, I mean there were some good moments. I mean, even I'll give David Ford credit when David Ford had the dream. He was screaming like a little baby. I was scared, and Willie gave a couple of screams this time, which was really, which really kind of made me jump. John Carlin's very good at that. But I think that that these two, Nickel and Humphrey Allen Estrada, just dug right into it and established himself as the new devil character who has a very wry sense of humor, a very dry sense of humor. And he'll come, and every other line coming out of his mouth is a double entendre, I'm from Martinique, where that was, don't you, Barnabas? That kind of thing. And all kinds of, and I told you about that. You're a man after my own heart. There were so many things that he did. So those are the two best. Well, now worst, I really don't think they gave Catherine, even Carolyn was good. Although I give her honorable mention because when she had the dream, she was really a nervous wreck. And Nancy Barrett's talents came to the fore. I don't think they gave Catherine Leigh Scott a lot to do.
They didn't. Not at all.
No. And so she's, although she gets in a nice scream when Adam grabs her by the arm, of course, the very next show in the first scene, instead of grabbing her by the arm, he's in the middle of the room with her, grabbing her by both arms, and the whole scene has changed. And people weren't gonna. It's the same thing with Willie.
I love Willie's fits. I love it when he gets all anxiety ridden and.
Well, the best blooper, one of the most famous bloopers, is when he's sitting in this block, or he's sitting on the ground in the cellar, and he says, "Boy, this place gives me the willies." And then he breaks out of character and he says, "Willies." He goes, "Oh, that's funny." And I think what the writers did.
He did. That's right.
Yeah, and that's a great blooper. And what the writers cleverly did was they then did a voiceover where Willie says, "Funny, my life is funny." So that's how they tried to recover from that. That was kind of brilliant because they knew that nobody was gonna. They knew that no. And at the very same time, when Willie said that, some guy sticks his ass into the scene and goes right back from the left. You see some guy gets into the scene and he goes into the left. And then there was a click light somewhere. Everything went wrong. Everything went wrong with that. But he came through. So who was the one? Yeah, Catherine, they did not give her a lot to do. And, she had a nice scream when Adam grabbed her, but that was about it. So that's my take on it. How about you, Keith? Vicky?
Favorite character and least favorite character?
I would have to say my favorite character. I had a lot of favorite characters, but as far as compelling and dramatic and whatever, probably have to be Jerry Lacey. I'm with Tom on that one because he's just so hardcore. I mean, he goes from being like, like the Snoopster, like Bogart type kind of guy to raging crucible, barbaric, priesthood, kind of thing. I just like his what's the word? He just goes from one to the other. He's just diverse actor.
Versatile. He's very versatile.
He's very versatile. He's got such a range on him. And I mean, he's just fun to watch. And, back in the day, he was pretty dashing and handsome. I've seen pictures of him. He's still kind of dashing and handsome.
Yeah, but obviously also there's a lot of these actors are very athletic. I mean, how was Trask able to put Barnabas in the wall if the wall was 3/4 full?
Yeah. I would have to say my least favorite was probably the skeleton in the wall.
With the Scotch tape.
The skeleton was not convincing. Huh?
They took the Scotch tape off, by the way.
Oh, they did. Well, I just read just the line on the head. Those things they open the cranium like you have in biology class in high school. Yeah. That's what this was. That's why it just kills me. I really can't say I have anybody I dislike in these, except maybe not giving enough for Catherine Lee Scott. She really doesn't have a whole lot going on in this, and I always love watching her performances. And and Sam, those glasses, man. That I'm sorry that he couldn't read the teleprompter, but I see Peter Boyle every time I see that scene. I think of Young Frankenstein, and it's hard to take seriously because my immature self, and we all know I am, just starts laughing every time I see those glasses. And I mean, I love Sam. I mean, I totally love him, but the glasses.
Well, when I was watching Dark Shadows, Isaac walked in and he looked at Sam and he asked me if I was watching Shrek.
Hey, I want to give Thayer David an honorable mention because I think he continues to do a good very supporting role as
and Rodan. Like he said, that one episode, that one part of the episode where they were doing the flashcards, that was just so well done. And I mean, anybody who's a parent or whatever who's ever taught or had to show flashcards, that just, because for back in the day, I don't even know if people do flashcards anymore. Do they even know what they are?
I don't either.
What about you, Keith?
Well, my favorite character is actually Robert Rodan as Adam in this block. Well, I think because for me, the reason why is up until this point, I kind of found Adam a bit annoying for my liking.
I love Adam.
I actually saw growth in this block with him. You saw a lot more emotional range with him. You saw tenderness, you saw kindness, you saw scared, you saw longing, and you saw understanding. And to be able to do that with the impediment that Adam's character has and be able to relay all those different emotions is quite a feat to do, actually. I don't know a lot of people would be able to pull that off, and I think that Robert Rodan did a fantastic job as Adam. So he's my favorite, actually. My least favorite, I'm going to have to agree with all three of you, was Kathleen Scott, and it's not because of her acting. It's not because of Maggie or anything like that. It has to do with the writers didn't really give her the opportunity to show her mourning the loss of her father. She kind of had to do a little bit of scream bit, and then it's like, oh, Pops, I'm worried about you at the hospital, and that was it, really. Suitcase up the stairs, suitcase down the stairs, out the door she goes.
And by the way, the suitcase, Vicky and Maggie have the same suitcase. They probably loan it out to each other.
Oh my God, I didn't even think of that.
And probably every character on the show will have the same suitcase. They don't want to spend money to give them a different.
I'm gonna have to watch. That's the anal stuff I will be watching for now.
Yeah, the blue Samsonite. That's what I think that is.
Is that the same stuff that the gorilla used to throw around in the 70s in the commercial? Remember the Samsonite commercial? Was it Samsonite?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
They had the gorilla and he was like on the luggage.
Yeah,
or OJ Simpson be jumping over in the airport.
Yeah, that's right. Good old Jay.
Back when Jay Simpson was something to be admired.
Good old Juice.
But things that happen as your
life
progresses forward.
The decades. I'm telling you, you never know what's going to happen, people. That's for sure.
Only a matter of time before the Kardashians are chased down the road by a cop.
And this is really trivial, but when Tom Gorman, who played among other things, he played the bartender in The Eagle during 1795. Right. So they bring him back as the judge during the trial, and he's in the same wig and the same clothes. And so all of a sudden, the guy who was the bartender at The Eagle has become a judge who is crooked. So it could only happen in America. That's all. That's right. Yep, absolutely.
So this brings us to our final thoughts of this block. Starting with you, Tom. What's your favorite block? What's your favorite bits about what's your overall impression of this block?
They're all my favorite blocks, but yes.
No, he doesn't have a non-favorite block.
I don't have it. Well, yeah,
I do. About your overall impression of this.
Well, actually, block. Vicky, I do. The one where they waited 30 days for the autopsy is not one of my favorites.
But I forgot about that. Yes.
And where Sheriff Patterson is, oh God Almighty!
Yeah, I know.
We don't want to go into it, but this is definitely a strong block because of the 1-2 punch that I'll say the third time, and also the mixture, the interweaving of the plots, the ability to have 4 actors portray 2 parts during the same block with such different ranges and interpretations. Jerry Lacey's Peterson versus Trask, Joe Crowther's Forbes versus Joe. You see, Naomi, Naomi, and although Liz is infusing more of Naomi, Liz's Naomi now is more Liz than Naomi.
Just to read, just for a second, the one thing about this block is, why is it always Liz they drive insane? Isn't there anybody else they can drive insane on this show?
No, I think it's because she's normally going on holiday when they drive her insane.
I was just thinking the same thing. So the best way to get rid of her is to, but even Jonathan needed a week off. That's why they put him in the wall. So he could have a week's vacation.
Yeah, that's true.
But I agree. I mean, if you're gonna give somebody a chronic illness, that's the best way to get them out.
Make them nuts.
For a while. So anyway, I think with a combination of all that, because you can see it's not like you have to wait from one block to another block to see the different role. Here, it's all in the same block. It's right there in the same show. In the same show, practically. What a makeup job! Where Trask has to get in, where Jerry Lacey has to do Trask on the one hand, probably tape it separately, and then do Tony Peterson for the next scene. It's that's really quite a switch. For all those reasons, this to me was a solid block. And
what about yourself, Vix?
I'm with Tom on that. It's a very solid block because you got elements of the old and you've got elements of the new coming in at the end, where you're starting to figure out, just possibly going to get all of Angelique's backstory possibly is in your near future, and then you have Jerry Lacey, being just, like I said, he goes all crucible on everybody. And and they like to wall up people. And, you got that gothic thing going on with the horror and stuff that probably, back in the day, little kids, probably weren't supposed to watch Dark Shadows because it give you nightmares like me. But looking back in retrospect, though, that's just good, clean fun now, watching it. But I mean, I like I said, I can't really pick out, other than the skeleton, somebody I didn't like in this episode, because I thought it was a strong transitional block where we're going to start getting some new stuff going on and the new storylines come in, and Adam's going to, go further on down the road to what, to what's, his destiny on the show. But I mean, I like it. It's a strong block. I don't really have anything bad to say about it.
Well, myself, I really like block, actually. To be honest, this month hasn't been a good month for me as far as time management is concerned.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And due to various things at work and so on and so
Right.
forth. But saying that, this show kept me vested, and I actually was able to work through this block very, very quickly and still be invested all the way through from beginning to end. So yeah, I think it was a very, very strong block. It's good to see a nod towards the past and bringing the past into the current storyline. I like that. And I think that everyone did a really good job. And I did scratch my head a couple of times because I know how the show was filmed. And I was wondering, like, when they went from 1795 into a dream sequence, and then they showed someone dreaming, and how they did the quick change and everything like that.
Right.
So
I still don't get the dream. I will never understand in a million years what that dream curse was. I know what it's about, but I don't know what the dream sequence is supposed to. You got guillotines, you got skeletal brides, it's just got all kinds of wacky shit that you just what has this got to do with anything? The guillotine.
I think I think a lot of people were high.
Was it probably just random shit for Dan Curtis?
Random 60s drug.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah,
LSD
I'm sure there's probably some kind of information out there about what each one symbolizes.
Yeah, I might have to try to dig that up because the symbolism for that's just driving me crazy.
Yeah. So, but overall, I think it's a very, very good block, and I really, really enjoyed this block, and it kept me totally invested. My mind didn't wander. I kept watching. I've already blazed past you guys because I wanted to watch the rest of it, so I just kept on going. Yeah, no, I always force myself to stop at our stopping point.
Sometimes, well, they're so easy to watch, though. They're only like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I can just knock those babies off easy. Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to the end of the Literary License Podcast, Dark Shadows, episodes 504 to 525.
506
to 524.
506 to 524.
506 to 524.
My synopsis says 505 to 525.
Look on the invite.
And that's because I typed that. So yeah, I wrote that. So there we go.
There you go.
Next month, we'll be covering episodes 525 to 549, and we'll continue on with Adam's storyline in Dark Shadows.
I'm writing that down right now.
What did he say now? Let's be 100%.
We'll be doing 525 to 549. The reason why it makes there's also a couple of misnumberings in our episodes of Dark Shadows because we'll figure out what some of these misnumberings are in July. The reason why some of them misnumbered. Some of them have double numbers, like 532 and 533 are numbered. One episode's numbered those two numbers. There's a couple of those numbers as well. So what we're going to do is remember next week we'll be doing classic novels, which will be Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, and the Ray Harryhausen film, The Three Worlds of Gulliver. And of course, we will also be having our special memoriam interview with Chris Pennick for all our viewers of Dark Shadows out there, and to wish everyone a happy Easter. And I think what we do will be carrying on our Bewitched. And of course, our 2-for-1 will be Night of the Living Dead and Return of the Living Dead. And we'll have some special guests for that as well. So it's good night for myself, and good night, Tom.
Good night, Keith, Vicky, and good night, everybody. As usual, stay safe.
And good night, Vicky.
Good night, everybody. Take care of each other.
And good night from the Literary License Podcast. And remember, next week for Easter, the Chris Pennick interview, and a happy Easter to you and your...
And a happy Passover as well.
Yeah. Happy
Passover. When we pass over, my people will be free.
Chasing dreams for so long, just one step behind and then never guess you have